Hey guys, this is Jimmy. So I wanted to do something today that I've been meaning to do a lot more of, but I haven't really gotten a chance to do that because, well, I'll get to it in a second. I'm going to be doing team review today. And the reason why I haven't done that before is because if you know me and you know my content, you know the stuff I like to do, a lot of teams I use are pretty hard sells. A lot of the teams I've used have had some really weird pieces on them, everything from Wigglytuff and Toxicroak to Mamoswine, Duskmane Necrozma, a lot of weird stuff, right? And it's hard for me to sell that whenever I'm doing a video on it. However, today I'm going to be using a much more established and proven archetype with the Kinugawa Thundurus and Iron Bundle balance team. And for those who don't know, Kinugawa is a Japanese player who built a Thundurus and Iron Bundle core and took that to the VGC Winter Invitational hosted by Marcus Hamon and a couple other people before Regulation F officially started up again and we got any actual events going for it. And he ended up winning the whole thing with this core. And going into Toronto, I had no idea what team I wanted to use. It's not entirely true. I actually wanted to use an Assault Vest, Okie Dokie with Terra Water, and a Grimmsnarl with screen support, but I didn't end up doing that, and I'm really bummed that I didn't because Jack Clark popped off with that team, but that's neither here nor there. I want to just talk about this team because it was really cool. Basically, 4 out of the 5 people I went to this event with ended up picking up this team, and we had a really good time using it. Some of us had worse records than others, but it was still a good time. We knew what we were doing whenever we went in with this team. Felt like we knew our lines pretty well, and it was just a matter of kind of finding a good matchup and hopefully outplaying people. That said, I want to go over the base team that Kinugawa used and then talk about the changes that we made going into Toronto. So for Kinugawa, he had, this is the base of the team, he had a Booster Energy Iron Bundle with Freeze Dry, Icy Wind, Encore, and Protect. This is a very good set right now. Iron Bundle is obviously very fast, naturally faster than even Fluttermane. However, that's not going to matter too much going into the team later. But Iron Bundle is very fast, he's very bulky, and then Freeze Dry and Icy Wind are a very good offensive supporting type duo. Not type duo, but move duo. Freeze Dry able to hit things like Ogerpon specifically for massive damage, even though normally ice is just neutral into it, is very, very, very good. Barring any super bulky Ogerpon Wellspring, Freeze Dry is always just going to get the KO. Obviously, if they Terra, then it's not going to, but you're still doing a lot of damage. But then you also have Icy Wind for speed control, and you have Encore to punish things like Fake Out, any setup with Raging Bolt, Sucker Punch, Thunderclap, anything like that. Encore is just very good when you're using it on something that's naturally as fast as Iron Bundle. I'm going to get into the spreads of everything later, but I'm just going to cover the base team right now. He had Rapid Strike Urshifu with Terra Steel, so he had a defensive Terra type, and then he also had Mystic Water, so he had a damage boosting item with a defensive Terra type. I think that's very strong. He was also running Surging Strikes, U-Turn, Aqua Jet, and Detect. We didn't make any changes to this. We did, however, change the Steel Terra to Water. Basically, with Water and Water Terra, Mystic Water, you can just ramp damage, and we had another way to do that even further later. But typically, this form of Urshifu is going to be a lot bulkier than your Choice Scarf or Focus Sash version, so this one can also take some punishment pretty well. He had Landorus, typical Landorus stuff with Sandsear as the third move. Normally, it's Sandsear substitute Taunt, but he chose Sandsear. He also had Terra Poison. The only thing we changed is we switched to Terra Steel. We found that that was just overall better into the matchups that we needed it to be. Just pretty good. I think both are good. Poison obviously boosting the damage of Sludge Bomb is very good, but I think Steel Terra is overall better defensively. So this is the interesting thing on his team is he had Shukaberry Ensign, which I do really like into the Landorus that's running around. There are obviously a lot of Life Orb Landorus in the format, and they're able to typically one-shot Incineroar unless that Ensign is carrying an Assault Vest. Shukaberry means that you don't have to rock the Assault Vest, and you can still use Parting Shot, and you can also still live in Earth Power. The issue is obviously that you only get to resist 1, but also typically you're only taking 1 anyway with an Assault Vest. You're almost always getting 2-hit KO'd anyway. But he had Terra Water, and Ensign is just pretty good. Assault Vest in Rillaboom, very standard set right here. Terra Fire, Woodhammer Glide, and then high horsepower. We opted to go for U-turn over high horsepower. I'll get into that. I think both are good, but I think high horsepower is just a really good answer to something like Raging Bolt. Obviously, good into Golden Go, stuff like that. Good into Ensign. And then the other star of the team was Thunderous. And so Kinugawa was running Safety Goggles and Terra Steel. We kept the Terra Steel, but we actually switched to Citrus Berry. Go into some more of the details on that later, but basically it just adds to Thunderous's already pretty solid bulk. And then he was running Taunt, and I think this makes a lot of sense with Safety Goggles, because that means in front of Amoonguss, you can either taunt the Amoonguss, or you can ignore any Rage Powders from Amoonguss and then fire off an Eerie Impulse, or Thunder Wave wherever you need to, or even taunt next to Amoonguss if you want to. This is very consistent, but we just opted for a bulkier option into Amoonguss. I think that's about it. The only thing that I really want to point out on this team, because obviously like these four are very standard. Iron Bundle, also a pretty standard set. I think Freeze Dry Icy Wind is just pretty mandatory on him at this point. Hydro Pump isn't really even good in this format. Like, special offensive water coverage is hitting maybe 2 or 3 things in the format for actually like relevant damage, and Freeze Dry is typically going to hit those things just as well, or at least cover the things that Hydro Pump can't hit. And then Encore is just a fantastic support move when you're on something as fast as Iron Bundle, being able to outspeed anything that sets up in front of you. If you bring Iron Bundle in on a fake out turn, all of a sudden you can make sure that the opposing fake out user is locked on the field. Iron Bundle with Encores is very, very, very good. Eerie Impulse is really where Thunderous shines, where you're not doing a lot of damage with Thunderous. That's not really his job, but Eerie Impulse lets you just completely neuter any special attacker in the format, be it Landorus, Raging Bolt, Fluttermane. If you can fire off an Eerie Impulse into any of these targets, they're just doing no damage. I'll get into it later, but I did have a game at Toronto where I was in front of a special attack booster Fluttermane, and they didn't have proper redirection. And basically, as soon as that Fluttermane hit the field, I could just Eerie Impulse it, and that special attack booster is now gone, and they're also -2 on top of that, basically. It doesn't quite equate to a -2, but it's like a -1.7 or something like that. But basically, anytime there's a special attack booster Pokemon on the field, be it Fluttermane, Raging Bolt, whatever, if you can fire off an Eerie Impulse, that Mon is now permanently doing less damage for the rest of the game, because even if they switch out, they don't get to keep the booster energy when they come back in. Very, very good move. Makes it that way Landorus can't ever one-shot anything on your team. Just very solid. But getting into the changes that we made, I'll just do this. So this is from a tournament that I did last night on Twitch. I just wanted to show off the team, but this is going to be a good starting point. So the only real changes that we made wasn't too many. It was typically just a Terra type or a move. But going into Urshifu, obviously we switched it from Terra Steel to Terra Water, kept the moveset the same, very bulky Urshifu. Thunderous was kind of the most changes, I think, because we had Citrus Berry for the added bulk, and then we had Rain Dance, and Rain Dance pairs really well with Mystic Water, Terra Water, Surging Strikes, right? Or even Aqua Jet. Basically, if you're able to have Rain up, you can just start smoking things with Aqua Jet, right? If you can Terra Water Aqua Jet in the rain with Mystic Water, even the super bulky Fluttermane are getting easily 2-tapped. I had a couple games where we went up against much frailer Fluttermanes, and we were able to just 1-tap them with Aqua Jet. It just doesn't really matter. So, very, very good duo. The other big change is the Ensign, where we dropped the Shuka Berry and we ended up running Safety Goggles because we didn't have it on Thunderous, right? And we also dropped Flare Blitz, and this one was like a little weird. Going into this event, we pretty much realized with this team that our matchup into the Fire, Water, Grass core of Hearth Flame plus Rillaboom, Ensign, Urshifu, any combination of those three plus a Hearthflame Ogerpon or Amoonguss was really difficult, because yes, we have our own Fire, Water, Grass core, but we don't really have a lot of ways to shut down any Swords Dance Ogerpons. We don't have any good way to tank a hit with Ensign and also stop Amoonguss from doing whatever we want it to do. If there was like an Urshifu Amoonguss lead, then it got really difficult for us to handle that, because especially if they were like a Terra Fairy Terra Fairy Amoongus, it would be really difficult for us to lead like Ensign and Bundle, and it was just really difficult. I think objectively, Terra Ghost is always good on Ensign, especially in this format. And Terra Ghost did help with our Porygon 2 Ursaluna matchup, but the issue with that is that, again, it made our Hearthflame matchup worse, and we felt going into this event that collectively we were going to play a lot less of the P2 Ursaluna and see a lot more of the Hearthflame Fire, Water, Grass stuff. So Terra Dragon Ensign is a fantastic response into all of that, obviously being able to resist pretty much everything on the field, barring something like a close combat or high horsepower from Urshifu or Rillaboom, but also at that point that's what we have Intimidate for. So super bulky Ensign, being able to be immune to any shenanigans from Amoongus, being able to resist the Fire, Water, Grass core, being able to intimidate things. This was a super roll compressed set, and by dropping Flare Blitz, we actually threw Taunt on here, and we still had Parting Shot, Fake Out, Knockoff, right? And this meant that we could always bring out Ensign in front of any of those core. Terra if we need to, click Fake Out if we need to, and then taunt the Amoongus to protect whoever we have that needs to deal with the thing next to Amoongus. That matchup felt very, very good, but our matchup into P2 Ursaluna felt a lot worse, excuse me, because we didn't have any ghost types on the field. So going into Facade or Terra Blast felt kind of bad. But going into events like this, sometimes that's just the choice you have to make, right? You have to pick your poison. We kept the bundle set the exact same. We did change the spreads. I'll go over those after this. And then we, again, just changed the Terra on Landers from Poison to Steel, just a good defensive typing. We felt that the Iron Crown Size Spam was a bad matchup for us, and Terra Steel is obviously much better into that than Terra Poison. And then we had U-Turn on Rillaboom instead of High Horsepower. Between U-Turn Rillaboom, U-Turn Urshifu, and Parting Shot Ensign, we had a lot of opportunity to just play super slow, find our positioning. Felt really good in the games where the games are going to take a while, because between Thunderous reducing damage, and spreading paralysis with Thunder Wave and Wild Bolt, between the 3 pivot options that we had, and then Encore Iron Bundle, and then the 2 heavy hitters of the team, like it felt very, very solid. So going into the spreads of the team, we have, I'm just going to show everything that we used here. I'm not going to any more events. I don't think there's any point in hiding spreads either, honestly, especially this stage in the game. So for our Thunderous, we didn't have the exact paste for the Kinugawa, but we did kind of infer whatever we could. But we actually opted for no attack, no speed on Thunderous, and then it's entirely bulk, right? We wanted as much HP value as we could possibly get, especially when you pair with Citrus Berry. And then we had Bold Thunderous is able to, this set specifically with the Citrus Berry, is able to live Terra Water Surging Strikes in the rain from something like Scarf Urshifu, meaning that if we're up against like a Tornadus Urshifu combo, we have no reason to ever risk having to be taunted or try and get a Thunder Wave off, right? Like we don't even need to do that. But we can always just click Wild Bolt. We can always click Thunder Wave. We don't have to worry about getting essentially one-tapped by an opposing Urshifu. So if they attack us and if they go all in on this, on KOing our Thunderous before it can do anything meaningful, that's fine with us. It also, between the insane physical bulk it has, between Intimidate from Ensign and then Eerie Impulse, this dude just doesn't die. He just refuses to die, to the point where it's so annoying for your opponent. If this guy can sit on the field unpunished, or even just taking chip damage from something like Dazzling Gleam, or stray Thunderbolts from Raging Bolt, whatever it is, if he's allowed to sit on the field and spread paralysis and enable Urshifu with something like Rain Dance, he's just going to be such a menace. He was easily the MVP of the team for me this weekend, or that weekend whenever we went. I'm recording this like 2 weeks after the event. Whoops, my bad. Anyway. And then also having the Steel typing is just insanely good into, again, like hyper offense Flutter Mane teams. If you're up against like a Specs Moonblast or something, like you don't care, you can get Terra Steel, Eerie Impulse if you want to, Terra Steel Thunder Wave. It doesn't really matter, right? Thunder Wave also pairing really well with our Urshifu. We had a very bulky Urshifu with a good amount of attack investment. Basically, this Urshifu is able to do something where if we were up against the bold 2/5/2 Flutter Mane that's just all out on physical offense, you were able to always get like a Thunder Wave and Terra Water Surging Strikes, and I don't think that's ever like a guaranteed KO, but if it's not, then you don't have to worry about actually committing to Terra if you don't want to. Actually, I think with Terra Water, yeah, that's what it is. My bad, I misspoke. So I can even double check here. But if we go into Flutter Mane, and they are the 252 Bold, Terra Water Surging Strikes is always going to get the KO, right? So that's why we designed it like this. So if we know from previous information that they are a Bold 252, we can always just click Thunder Wave on Thundurus onto the Flutter Mane, outpace them, and click Terra Water Surging Strikes, get the KO. If they're faster than us, which with a speed boosting Flutter Mane, if they hit a certain speed benchmark, I believe it's like 185. I have to double check that again real quick. Actually, it's been 2 weeks, so let me just to make sure. So if we're up against a Flutter Mane, and they are speed booster, they're 256. So if they're up to like, let me see, 274. Okay, so that's what it is. Yeah, I thought so. So if they are 183, which like this is a very odd speed benchmark. 183 isn't really doing anything incredibly specific, barring out creeping other like 180, 179 Flutter Mane. So basically, if we are able to Thunder Wave a Flutter Mane and we see that they still outpace us, we don't need to commit Terra Water to get that KO. But if they don't outpace us, Terra Water will get the KO. And that is actually pretty easy information to find thanks to Iron Bundle. Bear with me on it, it all makes sense in a second. Basically, into any matchup where you see a speed booster, or you see a booster energy Flutter Mane and you can infer that it's a speed booster set, if you lead Iron Bundle, you get all the information you need immediately, as long as they also leave Flutter Mane. So, going off the information I just talked about, if a Flutter Mane outpaces our Iron Bundle, we're only hitting 180 speed. So if they outpace our bundle, if their booster energy procs first, then that means that we will not outpace with Urshifu after a Thunder Wave. But if we see that ours does activate first, we can infer that they're most likely the super bulky set, and we can go ahead and just click Thunder Wave and Terra Water Surging Strikes in a later game, and just eliminate the Flutter Mane immediately. This speed is very helpful with Iron Bundle to find any information that you really need. Just because of that, just against all those Flutter Manes, we're in a weird space right now with Flutter Mane spreads where they're either the 252 Bold or they're going upwards of like 193 speed, special attack booster, right? Like it's all up in the air. And then what's nice with this spread also is that, yes, that means we have to like get the Thunder Wave, or we can also click Icy Wind, which means if we lead Iron Bundle and Urshifu into a Flutter Mane and we see that they are faster than us, then all we have to do is just click Terra Water Surging Strikes and KO the Flutter Mane if we want to, or we can not Terra and just pray that they are going to click Icy Wind in front of us, right? And just KO the Flutter Mane. But if we see that we outpace them, we can just click Icy Wind and Detect on Urshifu. Let them click Icy Wind. Iron Bundle is super bulky. He'll live almost anything that you need him to, barring any super effective hits. At which point, we just repeat the same thing again the next turn, except instead of detecting, we click Surging Strikes, and then we win. These three in particular, I'm going to move this over here. These three in particular just have very good synergy because of how you can find speed information against opposing Flutter Mane. And then also Iron Bundle is still very fast on its own. We hit 180. This means that we can always outpace Ogerpon, even if we have to switch out and switch back in. Even max speed Ogerpon is still going to underspeed us. We're in a good spot. Terra Water, Mystic Water, Surging Strikes will pretty much always KO any, or should always KO any Hearth Flame Ogerpon, especially if they have also been chipped by Icy Wind, which we should always move first. There's a lot of cool information that you can get from these three Pokemon going into any other teams that you can kind of infer what they want to do, but you're still kind of iffy on speed tiers. These three can be really good at finding that out, specifically with Booster Energy Iron Bundle. Anytime you're leading into a Flutter Mane, get game one, round one, you know what I mean. Game one, always lead Bundle and just learn what you can immediately. We get more information than they do pretty much anytime. Also, looking at our bundle spread, it was so funny talking about this with the people we built this with. because this is the most cursed iron bundle spread I've ever seen in my life, where you have a very fast special attacker with very low HP, very low special defense, and high physical defense. And we're like, okay, cool. We're going to ignore all of his good stats, all two and a half of his good stats, and then just go all in on special bulk and just a little bit of speed. It doesn't look like it makes any sense. But again, when you pair this spread with Intimidate and Eerie Impulse, this Iron Bundle can just start living the most absurd things. I do believe that we live a modest Ursaluna Blood Moon. I do believe we live a Terra Normal Hyper Voice, just raw with this Iron Bundle. Yep, there it is. And then obviously Terra Normal Blood Moon, if they're at -2. We're still gonna live. Like, it is actually ridiculous the amount of hits that this guy can take. If we go look at Raging Bolt, obviously Thunderbolt's gonna get the KO. We live most Thunderclaps, which is pretty cool, as long as there's no modifiers. But again, if we get them with an Eerie Impulse, that Thunderbolt is barely getting a 2-hit KO. Meanwhile, we can start spamming Freeze Dry, Icy Wind, Encore, depending on what move they go for. It's really fun. Obviously, we're not going to be the most offensive set, so I can show you some of like the offensive damage rolls. This is no bulk Urshifu, and Freeze Dry is never getting this KO. That's honestly okay. That's really not Bundle's job, is to threat. Its job is not to get the KOs. Its job is to threaten KOs or set up its team. And even so, if we're up against a like a Scarf Urshifu, if we lead like Rillaboom or Incin and we can just click Fake Out Freeze Dry, normally that'll be enough to get a KO against the no bulk. And if it's not, that's still not that bad, because we're going to live any Surging Strikes from Urshifu no matter what. And if they want to close combat our Iron Bundle, we also have Terra Ghost for that. So if we think that is what we need to go for, we can do that. If not, no big deal. Normally trading Iron Bundle for Scarf Urshifu is not that bad. That's one of our good matchups, is the Torn Ursh also, just because we have Thundurus, we have Iron Bundle, we have Rillaboom, we have a lot of good responses, and then obviously like our own Urshifu punishes any rain from opposing Thundurus stuff, or from opposing Tornadus. Thundurus is just an awful match for... Thundurus is... I always confuse the name, so I'm sorry if I do that, but our Thundurus is always a good matchup into opposing Tornadus, because we can either stop them from doing damage with Eerie Impulse, or we can just click Wild Bolt, or we can just click Thunder Wave, negating a Tailwind on its partner, right? Like, we just have so many good options into opposing Tornadus that he's just good. I think this guy is super slept on right now. As for the rest of the team, we have a pretty standard Safety Goggles Incin spread, just focusing on max bulk. We didn't have Flare Blitz, so there was really no reason to go for any offensive investment. And then we had pretty standard Rillaboom, not a lot of speed, pretty bulky, hits pretty hard, nothing too crazy. I think the biggest thing on this was just that we needed U-Turn to be really good into opposing grass types, and then something like Indeedee. Iron Crown is one of this team's worst matchups, so having at least a reliable way to get damage on Indeedee and also maintain terrain control, that's hard to say. This is super necessary. And then same with Landorus, nothing too special on him either. We just wanted to make sure we were as fast as possible without going into Timid. I think Timid Landorus is kind of a fraud in this format, and a lot of my friends that were building this agreed with me. It's just, you're just not getting the damage that you need, and if you're going Timid, you're sacrificing damage and also probably lacking a little bit of bulk too. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. But that's going to cover it for the spreads. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I have some notes on things that I would change going into if I were to use this team again, but I'm going to save that for towards the end of the video. I want to talk more about the team and the run. Okay, had to deal with something real quick. So back to it. Going into the actual Toronto run, so 4 of us chose to run this team. We all worked on it together. 2 of them dropped out at X3. I believe they both went 2-3. Maybe one of them was 3-3. But one of them wasn't super invested in the tournament as a whole anyway. He just kind of showed up for vibes, and I can respect that. The other one, I think, just had kind of an off day and had some bad matchups as well, and he just didn't feel like stressing out about it too much. I myself ended up with a 5-3 record, and it was a little... not in the good way, in the way that I would have preferred. For those that know me, I've been 1 win short of a day 2 multiple times. I believe out of the 12 events I've been to, maybe 9 of those events I took seriously, and then of those 9 events I took seriously, 5 of them I've been 1 win away from a day 2 record. However, for this event, I ended up starting the day at 1-3 And after that, I didn't drop a single set. A little disappointing that it couldn't have gone the other way, but it is what it is. And of those 4 games that I won, they all felt pretty convincing, barring one of them. But then our other friend, he made it to day 2. He went 6-2 on day 1, but then he actually ended up going 6-5 on the day 2. He ran into 2 bad matchups, and one of them was Eric Rios, so also a very good player. And Eric is friends with one of our guys in our group, so he knew exactly what we were doing. He had already probably at least formulated some kind of game plan into it. And Eric is also just a really good player. And then I think the other one he said he got pretty unlucky in, and it just kind of is what it is. But overall, team felt really good. I was bummed that I got my X3 record the way I did, because I played 2 of the exact same team the first 2 rounds of the day, which was very strange for me. So I lost to a Iron Crown Spam team that also featured a... What was it? It was Iron Crown with Ndidi Torn. It was a Regidrago, Hearthflame, and Urshifu. And then I played the exact same team the next game, and I lost the first one, and then I lost the first round, and then I moved into the round 2, played the exact same team, and I beat him that round. I think a big part of that was the fact that I played the first one, so I kind of knew what to expect at least. And then I lost another Iron Crown matchup as my 3rd loss of the day, and then my 2nd loss of the day was pretty unfortunate, where I was up against a Hyper Offense Sun team. And long story short, not trying to take anything away from the player, we did go to game 3. Turn 1, I got super crit by a Heat Rock Torkoal with Eruption onto my Thundurus as it got switched in. Got super crit and just lost my Eerie Impulse and my Rain against the Torkoal and Raging Bolt. Wasn't really much I could do at that point. I also missed a Sandsear on the following turn, so I was like, all right, cool, I have Sandsear to hit both of these things, it's gonna do a lot of damage, and I miss. Like, it kind of just is what it is. But overall, I think the team felt like it was really good in all of our good matchups. Like, again, I went from 1-3 to 5-3. Every game that I won felt very dominant. This team, when you have a good matchup, it's just really, really good. I can kind of talk about those real quick too. I don't have a good visual for it, so I'm sorry that it's just going to be this screen for a while. I'll pull this up so you can kind of like have a simpler thing. But a lot of the good matchups that we have consist of like Raging Bolt balance, specifically just having Thundurus into that with Landorus is very, very good. Obviously, like, Urshifu is really good into all of the physical attackers on that team, barring something like a Ogre Pond, but then if it's the Water Pond, we have Iron Bundle. If it is Fire Pond, then we have Rain and Surging Strikes and Thunder Wave, right? We have Incin with Terra Dragon. Very good into a lot of that stuff. I think if you're going into a tournament right now for Reg F and you're not prepared for Bolt Balance, you're doing something wrong. This team is also really good into the hard Trick Room. However, it wasn't good into the P2 Ursaluna Trick Room simply because Ursaluna is a nightmare. That mon is so ridiculously like overpowered, it's not even funny. I laugh with pain, not because of funny. But that matchup got really hard, but again, we chose to kind of sacrifice our matchup into that. It was prior to the Terra Dragon, it was Terra Ghost, and then having knockoff with Terra Ghost meant we could kind of just spam knockoff into that team, and as long as we get the Flame Orb off of Ursaluna or we get some good Intimidate swaps, we're in a good way. The Terra Dragon just made that a little bit more difficult, but if we're up against like the Psy Spam with like Ndidi Iron Crown, that matchup's pretty easy when you have Rillaboom and Thundurus and Urshifu Incin, right? Like you can kind of just balance your way around that, especially with triple pivot guys. It gets pretty easy. Sun offense, pretty good matchup, just specifically again with Rain Dance and Eerie Impulse, like being able to in front of Walking Wake, click Eerie Impulse, in front of Raging Bolt, click Eerie Impulse, like there's a lot of things you can do with Thundurus into the Hyper Offense Sun teams where you just don't really care. Another good one, obviously Torn Urshifu. Scarf Urshifu plus Tornadus is just an awful matchup into us because we'll pretty much live any combination of hits, and then if they're doubling down on a Thundurus turn 1, I think they're also doing something wrong because then our Urshifu can do something else. Iron Bundle is really good into that as well. These 3 alone can kind of handle Torn Ursh, and then if you pretty much just pack on Rilla, Lando, Incin wherever you need it. Last one that's I want to point out is Pow Knight is actually a pretty good matchup. We figured out that the best way to deal with the Banded Pow or Banded Dragonite plus Chen Pow lead is just go Bundle and Urshifu. You just click Icy Wind and Surging Strikes onto you click Icy Wind and Surging Strikes onto the Chen Pao slot, and will always live one hit from the Terra Normal E-Speed Dragonite will always live next to Chen Pao with either of these guys. They also risk clicking E-Speed into Terra Ghost Iron Bundle, which is really bad for them. And if they double up the Urshifu slot, they risk us clicking Protect. So basically it's just they have to make a call of what kind of weird stuff do they want to go for, and they either end up losing their Dragonite, they lose their Chen Pao, or they have their speed dropped on both of their guys, and then we can bring in a Steel Terra Landorus, we can bring in, we have Iron Bundle still, or we have Urshifu. Like, there's almost no good outcome for them in front of a Dragonite, or for us in front of Dragonite Chen Pao. This duo will pretty much just manhandle anything that they want. The only issue is then with like Scarf Shiyu and Booster Speed Flutter Mane, something like that, but then at that point, it's like, all right, cool. You click Icy Wind, you Protect. If they KO a bundle, you bring in Thunderous, you click Thunder Wave, you click Rain Dance, you click whatever you need to do, and then you just go from there. Honestly, very easy matchup into Chen Pao, or Pao Knight, as long as you know what you're doing, and as long as you like maintain an iron will and you commit to a game plan. Don't ever play around a Pao Knight player. They're always going to do the same thing. I don't care what anyone says. They're always going to do the same thing. Commit to a game plan. Don't deviate, and you'll be fine. Going for the bad matchups, some of these are going to be up here, but the two that I really want to mention are, again, P2 Ursaluna. Very difficult matchup just because P2 Ursaluna are very good offensive mons, and we don't have the best way to handle that. And then Iron Crown Psy-Spam with Hearthflame specifically is pretty difficult, because Hearthflame threatens big damage onto everything here that's not Incin, and the only way we can neuter the Hearthflame is with Incin, but then also if they're running like the Regidrago, or they have Terra Water Terra Blast on Iron Crown. That was the first 2 rounds of my Toronto experience. They both had Terra Water Terra Blast and Regidrago, and it felt really difficult to find a good position against that team. Those two are really bad, and then I ran into something in Toronto also that was interesting, and it was Empoleon. And Empoleon actually kind of scared me, because our best way for speed control is going to be either Thunder Wave or Icy Wind. And Empoleon having competitive is really bad for the Icy Wind stuff, because we're always outspeeding Empoleon anyway with most of our team. But if they click Tailwind, we need to click Icy Wind, but then we give them a +2. The Steel Water type is pretty bad when you don't have close combat on Urshifu, or you don't have Flare Blitz on Incin. You're only doing neutral damage or resistant most of the time. Same with Freeze Dry and Woodhammer. These are both also neutral targets. Only thing we really have to hit it is Wild Bolt and and Landorus, and that's it. So not like we ended up winning, but it was definitely one of those things where I'm like, I am terrified, and I'm gonna respect the hell out of this Empoleon. I refuse to get bodied by it, but it was rough. Going into my friend's run, who actually made it into day 2, these are the teams that he lost to in day 2. Farigiraf, I think, is just like one of the best Pokemon in the format. Really difficult mon to play around, kind of no matter what. And when you pair it with something like Choice Band, Single Strike Urshifu, also he had Terra Fire, which is really interesting, and Landorus and Incin, like, it's just, it can just get really tricky in terms of what to expect. And this is just one of those teams where it's just, I think he said he had a game plan for a couple games, and his opponent just kind of got him, is what it is, right? I do think Farigiraf is kind of a hard matchup for this team as well. That's kind of why we wanted to keep Knockoff on Incin instead of Flare Blitz. We want to have a way to punish these guys. Going into the next one, he lost against a Bolt Balance team, but it was also Bolt Balance with P2 Ursaluna. This was the Eric Rios matchup. I believe this was a special attack boosting Flutter Mane. And so when you have special attack boosting Flutter Mane, you have Fake Out, Follow Me, Trick Room, you have Thunderclap. Like, there's just a lot of stuff to worry about. And again, Eric kind of already knew our team. Eric also ended up beating our other friend who wasn't running this team. Our friend Calvin made it into day 2 as well. And I think he also beat him for the last round of the game. Eric was kind of like the run killer for our group, which was really funny. But yeah, I don't know, just a hard team for a lot of people to play into, and Eric is a very good player. And then this one, I think he said that he had some bad luck into. I think it was like he got some flinches, he got some crits somewhere. can't really remember, but also it's the Fluttermane Arcanine team. Like this is a team where it's like stuff is gonna go wrong and you can't really do anything about it sometimes. Let me see if there is anything else. I think the big thing to note is with this team is that it's a very controlling play style. It's not quite defensive, but like you are playing a tempo game with it. When you're using this team, you're playing to make sure your opponent can't do damage where they want to. You're trying to make sure that they can't exactly just click moves for free. Just very controlling play style. You want to make sure that you're pivoting as often as you can. You always want to have a good defensive mon on the field that can actually do a lot of damage. You're always playing for a long game of if I remove X, then this guy sweeps. It's a very protect the president style as well. That's how it really felt when I was going into a lot of games where I was like, okay, I want Thundurus and Bundle. I want a fake out guy, and then it turns into, do I want Urshifu or Landorus to be, which one of these two guys do I want to be the one that actually does the damage on the team? If you aren't running Thundy and Bundle, if you're running both of those, then it turns into double fake out balance team with Urshi Lando at the core, right? It's definitely fun. It's definitely a hard team to like just pick up and start winning games with. But overall, this team does feel very, very good. If I was going to another event, there's a good chance I would run something like this. I also would probably end up running the Okidogi, if I'm going to be honest. Again, shout out Jack Clark. He made that pop off, and I was so close to bringing something very similar. He brought Entei on his team. I could never do that. Entei is a fraud. I don't care what anyone says. If I were to run this team again, or if you were to pick this up, that's kind of the goal of this video, is to hopefully like encourage someone to pick it up or at least give it a try. Be it for a regional or limitless or just online, whatever you want. These are the changes that I would make after playing Toronto. I could see a world where close combat is incredibly valuable here. I think there were a lot of matchups where it felt bad to not have this, and having a Thunder Wave plus close combat option is always going to be really good. I just really liked U-turn also for the defensive play style, but I think this team does need a bit more offense sometimes. I wouldn't change anything about the Thundurus. I understand that Kinugawa had the safety goggles taunt. I just don't really like prankster taunt too much, because a lot of the times the things that I want to taunt are either going to be in psychic terrain or protected by Farigiraf, right? Or also follow me exists, and you can't really do anything into any of those, and it just gets a little tricky. I think the added bulk and then having Rain Dance to boost up Urshifu is massive. I also think that you could go for something like a Terra Poison or Terra Steel. I think Terra Steel would probably just be the play, just because of the side spam matchup. Like, it gets a lot easier when you have a Steel Terra Urshifu that can click Surging Strikes in the rain against something like an Iron Crown or a DD, right? I think that would be pretty good. I also don't know how I feel about the Incin. It still felt really good. I think Terra Dragon is really good on it. I could also see a world where you just don't run Taunt, but I could also see keeping this and then even dropping Knockoff for Flare Blitz. It's basically this Incin spread is that you have to either pick between the P2 Ursaluna matchup or the Fire Water Grass Balance matchup. And I think the Fire Water Grass Balance is going to be more common, but the P2 Ursaluna does get a bit more difficult. Aside from that, I would also probably rock High Horsepower on the Rillaboom. I think it's like if you're rocking High Horse on Rilla and you go close combat, your pivot potential gets a lot worse, right? So I could even see something like keep High Horse on Rilla and then go back to U-turn on the Urshifu, or vice versa, where you go U-turn on Rilla and then close combat here. But I think having two pivot guys is very important for how this team functions, and dropping both of these pivot options would be pretty bad. But I think High Horse is really good into Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt still felt like, yes, we had ways to slow it down, but if you don't have a way to KO it, you're still not going to win. And High Horse obviously makes that a lot easier. Same with close combat though, so it's kind of up to you. And then I wouldn't touch either of these. Bundle did everything I needed it to do and then some this weekend. I keep saying this weekend, but whatever. Bundle did everything I needed it to do. It would live some insane hits, and it was really funny to be at the table and like I click my moves, I lock in, and I just look up at my opponent. I'm just waiting for them to see what happens, and I see like Specs Dazzling Gleam come out onto Iron Bundle, and he lives with like 25% health, and then your opponent will just go, "What?" Like, it just kind of breaks their brain a little bit, especially if you're so faster than them too, right? Because it's like, all right, cool, what is Speed Booster Bundle? It's got Freeze Dry, Icy Wind, Encore Protect. It's probably pretty frail. It might have some bulk on it, but probably not a whole lot. And then it just starts living the most absurd stuff, especially with Thunderous. Like, you can also lead Thunderous and Iron Bundle into something like Raging Bolt, right? And sure, they threaten the Thunderclap, but also Eerie Impulse will move first. So even if you just click Freeze Dry or Icy Wind, and you click Eerie Impulse, that Thunderclap is doing less than half to bundle, and that's before you click your Terra Ghost, right? So he can just live some ridiculous things. But I really wouldn't change Thundy, Bundy, or Lando. They all felt like they did exactly what they needed to do. And then it's pretty much just going to be the moveset on these guys. I could see maybe, like, I could see a different Terra type on this guy too. But again, I think it was really hard when we didn't have Terra Dragon to deal with something like Hearth Flame plus Urshifu. That's a really potent duo because they have all three of Fire, Water, Grass damage. And Incin being able to just resist all of that and get like a parting shot, get a knockoff, get kind of whatever it needs to off is very, very good. So I think it's like if you go Flare Blitz into that, it gets even better because now you're threatening bigger damage onto the Hearth Flame, basically forcing them to Terra or lose like 70% of their health. Probably not 70, probably like 60, but still, like being able to threaten a 2-hit KO on Hearth Flame while resisting everything from it and Urshifu, very, very helpful. And then, yeah, I think High Horse or Close Combat is kind of all you can do. But I think that's all I wanted to go over. I don't know, like I'm not used to these team review stuff. I am kind of just yapping about it, but I'm doing all of this hoping that maybe you guys will give it a shot. I think it's a really cool team. Hopefully, if someone wants to bring something similar to this to an event, hopefully they make some changes based off of the stuff that I've said, and hopefully it goes well for you guys. I also wanted to mention too, my buddy who brought this, my buddy Griffin, he was the only Iron Bundle and Thunderous in day 2 of Toronto. So that's a pretty cool thing to see as well. But I think that's going to do it for right now. I don't think I have anything else. I'll go ahead and leave the full paste, and I think I still have the rental for the Toronto version as well. I'll leave both of those in the description. And I think that's going to do it. So I'm just going to double check and make sure, but I think we covered everything on my notes. Yeah, I think we're good. So yeah, that'll do it. I'm going to dip out, and I hope everyone has a great day. If you use this team or you have any notes on the team, let me know. I'm very curious about what you all think. But that's going to be it. I've said that like 15 times now. Bye.